Great. Well, welcome everyone to the World Health Summit. This is Lisa Blaisdell, and I have the honor of interviewing today Dr. Akil, who's located in the Bay Area. And I've just been reading a chapter of your book, Dr. Akil, and I'm so excited to buy it and learn more about what you teach on Paleo Vedic. Did I correctly say that?
Right.
So explain to me.
Yes, that's right.
You have an incredible bio and rich pedigree in the medical field, and you clearly could have done anything with your education. So tell me what led you to this path of wellness and pouring into people to help them stay well versus treating them once they become ill.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. And first of all, thanks for having me on the summit, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here. So my own journey to this path really began with my own illness, which actually began in medical school when I was at UCSF, the University of California in San Francisco. And I was, having a wonderful time, and it was the dream of life to study medicine. My body started getting this repetitive strain injury in my hands, where I was unable to write or use the computer, and developed severe, chronic pain in the back and neck. And it got to the point where I actually had to stop medical school and take a year off, because all the conventional treatments weren't really helping me. I was doing physical therapy and medications and all the procedures, but just wasn't really getting better. And it was only when I went to an Ayurvedic doctor who pointed out that some major changes in my diet I had done actually were one of the big causes of my illness. And so then I really appreciated the power of nutrition. And it wasn't something I was learning in medical school, at all. And but in my own life, implementing some of the changes in my diet and working with holistic practitioners like an Ayurvedic practitioner really allowed me to get well again, after that year of illness, and go back to medical school and finish. And then I knew that I wanted to learn nutrition and incorporate some of those natural approaches as well, along with conventional medicine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Isn't it just so fascinating that when our own health is compromised is when we really have that wake up call and we turn to, what hopefully we all are doing proactively no matter what. So can you explain a little bit about Ayurvedic so that the people who are watching this, if they're not familiar, I'm a little familiar, but I would love to learn a little bit more about that.
Sure, absolutely. So Ayurveda is the traditional system of medicine from India. And the word Ayurveda, Ayu means life, and Veda means science. So it's literally the science of life. And
love that.
It's been around almost 5,000 years now. So it's really had a lot of longevity in India and now other parts of the world. And it really focuses on prevention. So catching people, before they get sick, and really using diet, lifestyle and herbs to help people to stay healthy and, not develop the disease in the first place. And Ayurveda also believes in body types. So every person has a different, unique body type, and therefore a diet might be different for each person depending on what their, body type is. Ayurvedic concept is called doshas, which are these forces, like you can think of them as wind, fire, and earth, these kind of things. And depending on what each person's doshas are, there's a different diet recommended for them. And so it really emphasizes prevention and using food as medicine, and really staying well rather than waiting till the very end to get treatment.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So body type, not blood type, because I know that's a specific methodology as well.
Yes, exactly. So the body types are, they're determined, from birth, and it's not too hard to figure out your body. I have a questionnaire in my book that people can fill out to get a sense of their body type. And then, what's the right diet for one body type might be the complete opposite for what a different body type should eat. And I could give
Right.
some examples with a case maybe later, but
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. So, so then tell me a little bit about your practice. What do you focus on, and who do
yeah.
you serve, and what's an example of a typical patient that, I mean, you probably don't have typical patients, but
Right.
maybe someone that's coming to you. Are they
Mhm.
typically sick, or are they wanting to stay well? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I do see a lot of people with autoimmune disease. I think that's
Mm.
one of the areas I focus in a lot. And my clinic is called the Institute for Health and Healing, and we're in San Francisco. And so we accept most insurance. We're
Oh, that's great.
part of the regular, medical hospital system.
Oh,
And
that's nice. That's
yeah,
rare. Yeah, that's really nice.
right. Yeah. Right. And so we get, a lot of all types of patients, ranging from the very sick, with cancer or chronic diseases, all the way to healthy people who just want to optimize their, performance. We do see a lot of children as well. And but I would say in terms of diseases, autoimmune disease and cancer are the two main
Mm.
categories where I see a lot of patients.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about your philosophy, which is now your book,
Mhm.
Paleo Vedic, and how did you come to this particular? I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with the paleo diet, um,
Mhm.
but tell me a little bit about your spin on it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, the reason that I wrote the book was in my own practice. I saw a lot of patients already following paleo, but then doing it in a way that was not best for them, and having health issues or other symptoms from doing that. And in the mainstream media presents paleo as just meat. Like
Right.
and I think from an evolutionary perspective, that really wasn't what we ate in terms of our, for millions of years. It was mostly plant based with,
Yeah.
roots and leaves and tubers and things we could gather. And then hunting was pretty hard, so we didn't have access to meat all the time, but
Right.
certainly incorporated it when possible. So I wanted to emphasize paleo should be plant based. And Also, I felt a lot of the paleo books really excluded a lot of categories of foods that were quite healthy. Like, for example, legumes. I think
Yeah.
there's a whole category of beans and legumes that are very healthy if they're properly prepared and soaked and this kind of thing. And also even gluten-free grains, I think for certain people can be really good. So I thought paleo was too restrictive, and I wanted to expand the idea, broaden the list of foods people can eat. And then also, I found Ayurveda to be a great tool to help customize the diet. Help people to really figure out for their unique body type what type of paleo, what type of foods are optimal. And so that's where I saw combining Ayurveda with paleo to really work very well for a lot of my patients. And then from that, I came up with the principles in the book.
Oh, I love that. No, I love that because I think that there's just been in like what you said in the mainstream media, and depending on the circles that you're surrounding
Mhm.
yourself with, but
Right,
there's
right,
really a stigma around this anti-carb movement, and that
uh-huh.
carbohydrates are not good for you, and
Right.
people just kind of put that in a box, and
Mhm.
sure, the packaged foods, the processed foods, those are not good for you, but there's a whole category of carbohydrates that our bodies need.
Right.
And I love that you've addressed that in your book with the legumes and even some grains. So that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, and we really need the good carbs, like the sweet potatoes and tubers and certain whole grains and legumes. And I think that it's very important for our microbiome, which is our good bacteria, to have those fiber sources and those carbohydrate sources, because those are really the food for the bacteria that we know
Right,
that we have in us that are so important. And
right,
we need enough carbs to make serotonin for a good mood and for our sleep. So there's really many benefits of having the right kind of carbs. It's really the matter of quality, the right quality and the right type of carbs, not just excluding them completely.
right. But I was reading a little bit in your chapter 2 around gluten. What's your
Yes.
because it does seem to be that these gluten induced diseases are really on the rise. And
Mhm.
I guess there's kind of two camps, people think, oh, it's just all hype and, all of that. So what's your medical take on the whole gluten issue?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that it is a spectrum, and gluten sensitivity on the one end, you have celiac disease, which is very
Right.
severe, and
Yep.
few people have that. But then if you have the blood test for celiac disease and then that's normal, it doesn't mean that you have any kind of sensitivity, because there is a condition called non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which is like there are mild or moderate cases of gluten sensitivity, and we can test for those now and pick those up. And I think it's really best to do a test like that to figure that out. Because if you're just eliminating gluten from the diet, sometimes it might take 6 months to really know for sure the effects of it. So for
Right.
people who just want to take it out for a week or two, it's really not enough to know whether you're going to have a difference. But if you do a test, then you can more accurately determine whether you have a sensitivity.
Right. No, that's really important to know. And so then, as a result, you probably have patients who are gluten free who want to replace some of their gluten favorite foods, pastas and crackers and breads and
Mhm.
things like this, with the gluten free
Right.
type. What's your opinion on those foods, and are they just as detrimental in different ways as the gluten foods themselves?
Well, the gluten free doesn't mean healthy, and
Right.
that's what I have to remind people, because sometimes those gluten free foods have a lot of added sugar, or or high levels of fat, and in general, the processed foods should be at a minimum, and
Yep.
so if
Yep.
you're eating foods that are naturally gluten free, like sweet potatoes or root vegetables and other gluten free grains, and legumes and nuts and seeds, there's so many other healthy alternatives that are
Yeah.
naturally gluten-free, where you don't have to have it on the label that it's processed to be free of gluten. But I think that occasionally those gluten-free foods can be healthy, and they
Right.
just shouldn't be something that's like the bulk of the diet, because they're
Right.
not always
Right.
the healthiest.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I agree. And so, take me then through a little bit of an example, or a case study, if you will, of a patient that will come to see you. What's the methodology that you guys have in terms of, taking them from, for example, if they have an autoimmune disorder and they come to
Mhm.
you, what's the typical protocol that you'll take that patient through?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think that maybe I could give an example of someone that I saw and used diet a lot.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, and so this was a patient who had irritable bowel syndrome,
Mm,
and it was she had very severe constipation,
mm,
and she also had anxiety and dry skin. Those were her main complaints,
mm,
and so when I saw her, she had been already on a paleo diet, and her doctors had told her to have a lot of salads, and so she was eating tons of salad every day, and also she was told to drink lots of water, so she was having iced water, like very cold water throughout the day. And we figured out from her Ayurvedic body type that she had the Vata body type, which is the wind element, and in Ayurveda, again, there's Vata or wind, Pitta or fire, and Kapha or earth. And each dosha has the same qualities of that element. So with the wind or Vata, it has all the qualities of wind, light, cold, and dry.
mm.
And so actually in Ayurveda, the one of the classic manifestation of high Vata is constipation, anxiety, and dry skin. And even though they're unrelated, seemingly,
Yeah,
they do have a common cause. And in her case, actually, the salads were working against her, because
right.
they're very cold and very drying, and she wasn't really having any, enough dressing, and so that wasn't really the best thing for her. We
Mm.
had her stop all salads and switch to just cooked vegetables,
Oh,
and
interesting.
like eliminate any raw food, and have a lot of like stews and, more hearty soups, this kind of thing, warm foods. And then also had her stop the iced water because
Yeah.
in Ayurveda, that's very bad for the digestion and for
Right.
vata imbalance. So had her switch to just warm water or room temperature and stop iced water. And then there was just a couple of simple changes in her diet. We had her add a lot more ghee, which is the clarified butter.
Yep.
And that's very good for balancing vata. And, she had been very afraid to have butter because of
Right.
her doctors, what she heard. And nobody told her to have plenty of ghee and also healthy oils like olive oil and sesame oil. So in Ayurveda, the vata imbalance relates to dryness. So she had too much dryness in her system, too much cold. And so we had her have the warming foods, the moist foods, more oil and fat. And actually, in about 2 months or so, her constipation just resolved with those
Wow.
dietary changes, and she no longer had irritable bowel syndrome. And then a few months later, she was pretty normal. Her anxiety had gone away, and
Gosh.
skin was normal. So pretty much all came back to the diet and knowing what her body type was. And even though salads would be very healthy for some
Right.
different people, in her case, it was not at that time. It was not the right thing. And so when she switched to cooked foods, she noticed a really big difference.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. No, I'm fascinated with this. That's really exciting that people can just make little shifts.
Right. Yeah.
Not even major. This isn't even a major shift.
Right.
That's incredible. So she's well now. So then do you let them go back to like salads and things like that? Or is this a way of life that she has to maintain just based on her body type and knowing what potentially it could lead to if she diverted from that diet?
Well, in Ayurveda, there's also the concept of the Agni or digestive fire. And so her digestive fire was really weak. And that's why she couldn't digest the salads.
I see.
So after some time, we worked on building up, strengthening her digestive fire, improving her capacity to digest foods. And then she was able to go back and have salads occasionally, but just realized that she couldn't overdo it. And,
right.
she had to balance it with the cooked foods and warming foods. And then also depending on the season. So, like wintertime, a very cold season, she, really was told to avoid the salads and really have more hearty foods and warm foods. So Ayurveda believes in eating with the seasons as well.
Yeah.
And that's also part of it. But improving the Agni or the digestive fire is really important for everybody to, have that strong capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's incredible. It's so exciting that people can make these shifts and just regain their health. It's just amazing. So the last kind of bigger question that I have for you, which has really been a fascinating one to listen to all of you incredible practitioners that are in this work. But what do you think, with all of your background and your medical background and treating people with so many chronic diseases, seeing that there is so much of this on the rise, what do you think the biggest challenge is in educating society, your community, the global community, around the role that nutrition, lifestyle, diet, all of this has in maintaining good health? Because it seems as if we're losing the war of health, and yet there's so many incredible advocates like you out there helping people. So what do you think the biggest challenges that we have to really address some of these bigger issues to really help people understand what the truth is about being healthy?
Yeah, I think that there's several, big challenges. I think one is societal shift away from the family meal, away from home cooked meals, and really to eating on the go and fast food and convenience. And I think just bringing back that family home cooked meal every night. I think that's just cooking with your family, and no matter what you're cooking, just cooking at home and eating together with your family, that itself is so powerful. And I think just getting that tradition and back into people's lives is really important, because not only do you get the cooking from scratch and making food, but you get the community, which is so important in terms of the social connection.
Yes.
I think the second area is just that, we have a tendency to go to extremes. So for example, now many of my patients are on the ketogenic diet where they're, avoiding all carbs and eating only, 2% carbs. Before that, it was the low fat craze. And so I think there's a tendency to always go to an extreme, and
Yes.
we have to realize that every nutrient has its place. Carbs
Yes.
have their place, and fat has its place. And having a more moderate approach, a more balanced approach, is really the key, I think, in terms of something that's sustainable. So I think that's where a plant-based, paleo approach, where you're incorporating a variety of foods, not overly restricting your food, and then also incorporating Ayurvedic medicine to understand yourself better. That's really
Right.
what it comes down to, is developing awareness of your own, your own body type, your own tendencies, and using that to individualize a regimen, for
Right.
yourself. And then the final thing, I think, is just the change in the food industry as a whole, because there is, even within the food industry, there's strong market forces at work to sell processed food and
Yes.
sugary beverages and all these things. And slowly there are changes within what is what is being sold. And so slowly, soda consumption is going down, and these big companies are realizing that they need to change what they're offering, and they very slowly are.
Right.
And I think it's up to consumers too to really
Yeah.
vote with their dollars and
That's exactly
choose,
right.
choose healthier options. And for example, 10 years ago, there really wasn't much of a gluten-free food market, and
Right.
now it's exploded. And
Right.
that's really the power of consumers to draw with their demand, make healthier choices available in the market.
Yeah.
So I think that, if each of those areas can be, slowly changed, then I think there's a lot of hope to improve the health of people, in the whole country, and really shift this pattern towards chronic disease, which we're, kind of going in the wrong direction right now. But we can definitely shift that in the right direction.
No, I love your attitude, because I do think that we can make change, and it does start with us at home, from the
Right.
family meals to, what we purchase at the stores. And like you said, just avoiding some of these extremes. And as I've been interviewing all of you health practitioners, the common theme that I have heard over this last few days is that it really has to be a moderate approach,
Right.
and it's very individualized. So I do love that. I love that. So how can people find you, Dr. Akil? How can they connect with you, especially if they don't live in the Bay Area, as I do not? I'm in Southern California. Tell us how we can continue to learn from you and benefit from your incredible wisdom and approach to healthy living.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the best way is probably through my website, which is drakil.com, just spelled out DOCTORAKIL.com. Also, because, I'm getting so many inquiries from people outside the Bay Area and, outside the country, I've moved towards doing a lot of online classes, about different topics, and having those available for anybody to view, anywhere. So those are available through the media section of my website. So that's probably the best way to keep in touch, is through my website.
Great. And they can buy your book, which I am planning to do, because I'm just so fascinated with this and really excited to learn more. I just feel that we have so much that we can keep learning, even though I feel that I know a lot and have implemented a lot. There's just a lot to learn about this incredible topic of healthy living. And I really just am so impressed with your practice and everything that you're doing for people. So I will let you get back to seeing your patients, Dr. Akil, but thank you so much. This was just fascinating, and I really look forward to staying connected and having your book on my nightstand and sharing it with people, and sharing this interview with lots of people too. I think that they'll be really excited to learn from you. So thank you so very much, and have a great rest of your day. And it was just an honor to speak with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lisa, for having me on the summit. And I think that we're all continuing to learn, and that's something that it's the great thing about today is that there's so much information out there that we can all access. And I think the hard part is finding the right information because it's overwhelming
Right,
to sort through
right.
everything. It's possible to do that, and I think that's the great thing. We can all continue learning and hopefully moving towards that healthy society that we all need to strive towards.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks to people like you, we're heading in a better direction. So, thank you so much again, Dr. Akil. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. You
Bye
too.
bye.